All right. Good evening, everyone. We can do a little bit better than that. Good evening, everyone. That sounds more like it. Welcome to the 2025 Gilder Lehrman Institute Gala. My name is Kaleb Sy, and I'm proud to serve as your Master of Ceremonies tonight. I'm a rising junior at Columbia University, where I'm pursuing a Bachelor's of Arts degree in political science. Go Lions. I am from the home of the blues, the birthplace of rock and roll, and needless to say, the barbecue capital of the world, Memphis, Tennessee. And I was a proud member of the Gilder Lehrman Institute Student Advisory Council throughout high school. Now, some of you may recognize me from last year's gala, and of course, I had such a fabulous time last year that I had to come back and celebrate with you all again. And what a spectacular night we have in store. I hope you all are in a celebratory mood because the room is full of honorees tonight. The phenomenal historian and author Doris Kearns Goodwin is here. Some great people from the Rockefeller Foundation are here. And throughout the room are brilliant class members of Hamilton. We are so lucky, we're so lucky to have all of these champions of history with us this evening. Without further ado, we start tonight with a student performance from our Hamilton Education Program. Based on letters from George Washington during the brutal winter at Valley Forge, this ballad is a fantastic example of student response to the EduHam program. You can follow along with the lyrics on the back of the pledge card inside your program. So, without further ado, please welcome to the stage from Piscataway Magnet School in New Jersey, Heather Sanchez, accompanied on the piano by Deidre Struck.
We have settled in Valley Forge, PA, winter of 1777 through 1778. As a leader, I am concerned. We are in need of supplies. So, with this concern, I write 3 letters to Congress, yet they do not reply. Letter 1, December 23rd. My army is dying right in front of me. Starving and sick, living in snow. In hay they sleep and a struggle they withhold. To this I command the men, but I do not condone the deaths we must behold. Congress did not do a thing. They want to win a battle, but in all the up dead bodies they ask me to lead. I see it in their eyes. They're fighting for their lives. Their hearts are screaming, why fight for a land that won't provide? 29th of December, I write a second letter. I speak of a crisis, and I write with compassion, compassion towards the troops. I plead for clothes and food. 1778, February 16th. It's been a year of struggle. Without strength, it's hard to proceed. Every breath's a miracle. They train and train and train, running through the snow. it soon becomes their grave. A question as a leader, a dilemma I must solve. How must I lead an army of broken bones? I see it in their eyes, they're fighting for their lives. Their hearts are screaming, why fight for a land that won't provide? For a land that won't provide.
Welcome, everyone. I think you've had a chance to see, as you met Heather and Kaleb, why we love what we do at the Gilder Lehrman Institute and how grateful we are, of course, to the EduHam program for bringing people like Heather and their talent to engage with American history and with their own creativity. I want to welcome all of you, and especially our honorees, Doris Kearns Goodwin, the cast of Hamilton who are everywhere, and the Rockefeller Foundation, and they're led by their president, Shah. Thank you for being with us. My name is Jim Basker. I'm president of the Gilder Lehrman Institute, and thank you. It's my honor to welcome you on behalf of the Institute and to give you a snapshot in the 3 minutes allotted to me of what the Institute is doing to improve the teaching and learning of American history and civics across the country. But first, I'd like to recognize a couple of special guests in the room. There are many distinguished people here, as you've gathered during the drinks reception, too many to name, in fact, but a couple of them have come from out of town to be with us, so I want to call on them for a moment. All the way from New Orleans, where he is a hugely popular professor of history at Tulane, one of the leading public intellectuals and historians of our time, my friend Walter Isaacson. Walter, thank you. And from up the Hudson River, two leaders representing an institution that has contributed so much to our nation's history, an institution that this year produced a record 4 Rhodes Scholars, representing the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, the superintendent, General Steve Gillen, and the Commandant of Cadets, Brigadier General R.J. Garcia. Welcome. On occasions like this, we always think of our founders, the late Richard Gilder, who died actually 5 years ago, exactly on this date in 2020, and Louis Lehrman, who is too ill to be with us tonight. Both of these great men are represented by members of their family this evening. I've seen her somewhere, I'm not sure where she is in the room. Dick Gilder's beloved sister and our longtime supporter, Peggy Tershwell. Where are you, Peggy? And, of course, here in the room we have Lou Lehrman's wonderful wife, Louise, and her sons, Thomas, Leland, and Peter, and her granddaughter, Berenica. Welcome. Thank you. From small beginnings back in 1994, when the Institute was founded, we have grown now to have a big footprint in the country, but also to have a larger and very generous board of trustees who make possible so much of what we do. There are too many trustees in the room to name them all, but I'd like to ask the trustees of the Gilder Lehrman Institute to please stand where you are and be recognized with our thanks. One other person who is not quite a trustee, although his mother is, but someone who's very much a part of the Gilder Lehrman family, our friend Lin-Manuel Miranda. Thank you, Lin. I want to say a few words about our mission and the ways we pursue it. And as I said, I have 3 minutes to do so. We start from a belief that history and civics are the most important subjects in the curriculum. Most of us can live our lives without chemistry or French or other subjects we took in high school. But we cannot have a functioning democracy without everyone sharing a baseline knowledge of and connection with American history and civics. We believe that the key is supporting teachers, who are the lifeblood of the system. Our core programs give K-12 teachers access to the best historians in the country and to a large archive of primary source documents, now 87,000 manuscripts, that were the initial gift of our founders, Dick Gilder and Lou Lehrman. We provide a wide range of professional development programs for teachers, both in person in a variety of residential settings, such as the Lincoln Seminar in Springfield, Illinois, and our seminar on FDR at Marist College, and our symposium at Gettysburg College, where we have 300 teachers in residence this summer. Our other programs are online through our 50 self-paced courses, our book breaks, and Inside the Vault programs, which are offered year-round. This year, as you're reading, more than 20,000 teachers did their professional development in a Gilder Lehrman program. Our website offers a vast array of resources, not only for teachers, but for K-12 and college students, researchers, genealogists, history buffs, anyone with curiosity about our country's past. We have online materials dedicated to the founding era, including thousands of digitized manuscripts by Washington, Jefferson, Hamilton, and one of them is in fact a fabulous love letter by Hamilton written to Eliza, which you will be taking home in your goodie bag tonight. And when you read it, you'll see that it has a wonderful connection to Lin Miranda and his performance when he was the lead in his own show, Hamilton. It has a romantic story in the theater as well. And there are thousands of manuscripts by Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, by Civil War soldiers, even 20th century soldiers in World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, and so on. And we also have video lectures by hundreds of the greatest historians, online exhibitions and interactive programs on everything from the pre-Columbian era through the 20th century. One of our most important resources is an online study guide for students to prepare for the AP test in American history. We started it about 10 years ago, and it is free and available to every student in the country. Teachers can assign it in their classes, or students can use it on their own, even as a review program before they take the test. And as you're reading, more than 1 million people use that website every year. We also have a program for teachers that is, I think, one of our highest impact, highest value programs. It's a master's degree in American history that we partner with Gettysburg College to offer. It is open only to teachers. It offers the highest quality courses with top professors, including Pulitzer Prize winners like David Blight and Alan Taylor. But it offers those courses at the lowest tuition cost point in the country. Teachers can take courses from anywhere without leaving their jobs or their families, and they can take them at any rate that works for them over the course of 5 years. But when teachers complete a master's degree in history, they earn a $3,000 raise, they become eligible to teach in community college, and of course they have a deeper knowledge to share with their students. It's been one of our most important new programs in the last 10 years. But we're constantly offering new programs. Last year it was the Voting Rights Initiative. This year an initiative based on the citizenship test, which whole classes take in their schools and then discuss what it means to be a citizen and what questions they would add to the citizenship test in the future. And next month we're launching yet another new initiative on the Declaration at its 250th anniversary. And the programs there will include traveling exhibitions that will be going out to hundreds of schools, classroom resources, digital interactives, and much, much more. In sum, what I should tell you is that our central framework is a national network of affiliate schools, which now number more than 36,000, almost 37,000. Thank you. And they're in all 50 states, from the 87 that are in South Dakota to the 3,600 in California. Those schools, our affiliates, have more than 100,000 teachers registered with us and about 14 million students in their classroom. As we grow in scale, our goal is to steadily improve the quality of our offerings and their impact. We feel that that matters now more than ever. Thank you. Behind the statistics, however, I always want us to remember that there are real, living, breathing students. You've met Kaleb Sy and Heather Sanchez, and I want to introduce now, and I'll ask them to come up on the stage, 3 other outstanding students from our National Student Advisory Council, who all 3 are at a pivotal point in their lives. They are graduating seniors who are going to go on to college in the fall. Katie Shue is a senior at the Chapin School here in New York. She's been on the Gilder Lehrman Student Advisory Council since 9th grade. She completed 5 research assistantships with the Institute. She did 3 online courses with us, and she has spoken in 3 of our public programs. In the fall, she'll begin as an undergraduate at Stanford. It's nice to hear California has some sympathy in the room. Milo Kramnik, who is a graduating senior at LREI here in Manhattan, has been a Student Advisory Council member since 10th grade. He's done 2 research assistantships with us. He did a summer internship in our archives, and he won a Gilder Lehrman scholarship to the National History Academy down in Virginia. In the fall, Milo is starting at Yale. And Charlotte Lorraine. Charlotte is a senior at Rye High School. She's been a Student Advisory Council member since grade 10. She served as a docent for the exhibition on voting rights at last year's Gala. Some of you may have benefited from her teaching. She did incredible volunteer work at the Rye African American Cemetery, where, in honor of Juneteenth, Charlotte created an interactive walking tour that told the stories of the people buried there. In the fall, she'll begin at Columbia University. Creating opportunities for students and supporting their hardworking teachers is what Gilder Lehrman is about. We have in the room tonight groups from some of our very best affiliate schools, and I'd like to ask the teachers and students from each of them to stand and be recognized. Please hold your applause until we have people from all 6 of these schools standing. From Fort Hamilton High School in Brooklyn, from Cristo Rey High School, also in Brooklyn. I see people standing. Please remain standing so we can applaud you all. From Eximius College Prep Academy in the Bronx, the Academy of American Studies in Queens, from Stuyvesant High School here in the neighborhood in Manhattan, and from Hunter College Elementary School, also here in Manhattan, teachers and students in New York. Please recognize them all. Thank you, guys. Thank you. So these young people and their teachers and thousands more like them across the country are what motivates us at Gilder Lehrman and gives us hope for our country's future. It is time now to turn to our honorees and to present the first award, another of Gilder Lehrman's stars, here from Washington, D.C., the 2019 National History Teacher of the Year, our good friend Alysha Butler. Alysha.
My name is Alysha Butler, and I am a proud District of Columbia public school teacher. I'm also a project manager for inclusive education at GBH, and I am a member of the College Board Development Committee for the AP African American Studies course. In 2019, I became the first teacher from the District of Columbia to be named the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History's National History Teacher of the Year. That same year, I was honored to join the GLI Board of Trustees. Currently, I teach at an urban school in Northeast Washington near North Capitol. From my classroom window, I can see the Washington Monument. As a matter of fact, the White House is only 2.1 miles away. It's close enough to walk. Yet for many of my students, imagining themselves one day living there or even aspiring to the presidency is often hindered by ideological roadblocks and systemic barriers that send a very different message about who gets to lead. That is why the work of tonight's honoree, Pulitzer Prize-winning historian, New York Times best-selling author, and tireless advocate for making history accessible is so critical. Doris Kearns Goodwin's books, including The Leadership Journey, How 4 Kids Became President, Leadership in Turbulent Times, and Teams of Rivals, The Political Genius of Abraham Lincoln, breathe humanity into monumental figures of US history. She shows my students and students across the nation that no one is born with the mandate to lead, but everyone is born with the capacity to rise and become a leader when given a chance. Her recent work, An Unfinished Love Story, A Personal History of the 1960s, reminds us, as the late, great James Baldwin once said, people are trapped in history, and history is trapped in them. You see, as educators, it is our mission to help students recognize how their lives are shaped by historical events and structures, and how they too hold the power to reshape that history. Now, I could speak endlessly about the profound influence of Doris Kearns Goodwin's work, but I'll now step aside for a short video featuring fellow historians who can speak to her impact with even greater authority.
Doris is an American treasure. Her storytelling ability, her empathetic engagement with American history elevates stories about people who matter to us. She has been surpassed really by no one.
I admire Doris's capacity to take larger-than-life figures and humanize them, to show you what they're really like. She's made our history real and accessible to millions of people.
Doris Kearns Goodwin is one of America's greatest historians. There's an emotional quality to her work. She writes with passion and empathy. You feel like you're in the room with these human beings, and that's what makes her work magical for me.
Doris is a very caring and generous person, and she brings a moral clarity to what leadership should be about, how leadership matters and can really make things better, how people can make a difference for our country.
She is more than a great biographer. She is truly a national treasure, exploring the private or public relationships that helped save the nation, or opening windows onto her own career as a White House aide. Doris has chronicled the rich heritage of several centuries and made them matter for our time and for future times.
Doris won our Lincoln Prize for the best book on Abraham Lincoln of the year for Team of Rivals. She tapped into a vein of Lincoln's political genius that I don't think anybody had quite captured before.
She understood Lyndon Johnson, worked as an intern for him. That eventually becomes Lyndon Johnson and the American Dream, one of my favorite of Doris's books. It opened my eyes to the power of biography, telling the history of our time through the people who make it.
When Doris won the Pulitzer Prize for No Ordinary Time, it was Doris's humanity, her empathy for ordinary people that made that book so compelling.
Writing about Franklin and Eleanor, Doris does a great job of showing why they live in our imaginations.
The key thing, if you're going to be a historian, is to remember that it's about stories. It's about stories. Everybody loves a story. I encountered Doris Kearns Goodwin, one of the truly great storytellers of our time. Congratulations, my friend.
Doris, you are one of America's most beloved and revered storytellers. You make our country better, smarter, and more decent.
Doris, we love you for all you've done for us, sharing your wisdom with our teachers and with our students. You've taught us to understand American history and to value what we've inherited from the past. We're tremendously grateful, and we couldn't be happier to be honoring you this evening.
Congratulations on this great honor from the Gilder Lehrman Institute. You're an amazing historian and an even better friend. I've loved what you've told us about how we see our own history. There's nobody in your league, and I'm so happy you're being honored tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage 2025 Champion of History, Doris Kearns Goodwin.
Let me get a photo of the two of you real quick. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you so much. How absolutely right it feels at this moment in time to be in this room surrounded by people who love and support history. For never in our lifetime has the study of history been more important, and never in our lifetime has the study of history been more diminished in our schools or polarized in our communities. So what a joy it is for me. What a joy it is for me to share this night with the Gilder Lehrman Institute, with the magical cast of Hamilton, the Rockefeller Foundation, whose work together has inspired a passion for history in millions and millions of people all over our country and indeed all over the world. I can't think of a perfect place to be other than here tonight. So let me begin by telling you that I've loved history for as long as I can remember, a love that began when my mother, who had had rheumatic fever as a child, and left her with a heart that was damaged so that she was largely confined to our house, but by reading books in every spare moment she could find, though having only an 8th grade education, she was transported to places that she could never go. And every night she would read to me, and she loved reading history more than anything. She read to me as long as I could stay awake, that dream of a child never to go to sleep. How I treasured listening to her voice, so much softer and richer than my own. I think the only joy that surpassed listening to her read a book to me was listening to stories about her girlhood. I became obsessed with wanting to know what it was like before her illness set in, when she could talk about her adventures to me, about jumping rope or running the stairs 2 at a time, or running through the park, and her eyes would brighten and the lines on her face would seem to diminish. So I came to believe if I could keep her talking about these days when she was young before her illness set in, that her mind would control her body, and this premature aging process that we were witnessing would just be stopped in its tracks. So I was constantly begging her, "Mom, tell me a story about you when you were my age," not realizing how peculiar that was until I had my own 3 boys who never once had said to me, "Mom, tell us a story about you when you were our age." Well, I was only 15 when my mother had a heart attack and died, but nonetheless, 7 decades later, her love of books and her love of storytelling has become the anchor of my life. But my love of history was also rooted in my father's love of baseball. When I was only 6 years old, he taught me that mysterious art of keeping score while listening to Brooklyn Dodger games. So in the summer, when he went to work in New York during the day, I could record with all my miniaturized symbols the history of that afternoon's game. He would then come home and listen in rapt attention that I told him every play of every inning of the game that afternoon. So I think there's something magic about history, even if it's only 4 or 5 hours old, to keep my father's attention. In fact, I'm convinced that I learned the narrative art from those nightly sessions with my father, because at first I would be so excited. I would blurt out, "The Dodgers won," or "The Dodgers lost," which took much of the drama of this 2-hour telling away. So I finally learned you had to tell a story from beginning to middle to end. Well, he made it even more special for me in those early days, because he never told me that all of this was actually described in great detail in the sports pages of the newspapers the next day. So I thought without me, he wouldn't even know what happened to our beloved Brooklyn Dodgers. But then in high school, this childhood love for history was channeled into American history by a magical teacher, Miss Austin, who won an award for one of the best teachers in New York State. How important are teachers for so many of us who gave us the subject that we fell in love with? How many of us felt that love that the teacher had? Her love for history was contagious. Her eyes would gleam as she brought Washington and Adams and Jefferson and Hamilton to life. I really felt she must have known them. She told us in such vivid detail about what they were like. And when she recounted Lincoln's death, tears came into her eyes. I had never seen a teacher cry. I thought, surely she must have known him. That's how incredible she was. So I went to college and graduate school wanting to be a teacher and a storyteller like Miss Austin. That I ended up as a presidential historian was due to the experience of working with Lyndon Johnson when I was 24 years old in the White House, and then the gift he gave me in the last years of his life when he brought me to Texas to work on his memoirs and spent countless hours talking to me. He talked forever. He talked as we were supposedly swimming in the pool, but there were rafts in the pool that had floating notepads on them in case he said anything important. He talked as we walked by the river. He talked when we waited for the movie theater to go at night. He never stopped talking. And his mind went backward in times when he talked to me. He wanted to talk about the days when he was in FDR's National Youth Administration. He wanted to talk about when he was a young congressman and he brought electricity to his beloved Hill Country. And mostly he wanted to talk about the happiest days in the White House when he championed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. Throughout his life, he just hoped so much in those last years to be remembered for something other than the war in Vietnam. And it's happening in many ways. I mean, historians are getting him further and further up for what he did. In a recent poll I saw, he actually was number 8 and John F. Kennedy was number 9. How happy he would have been. But most importantly, his face would light up when he talked about civil rights, when he talked about the things that really mattered, Medicare, aid to education, just as my mother's face had lit up when she talked about her early days of her life. And those conversations became the foundation for my first book on Lyndon Johnson and the American Dream, which set me on the path to becoming a presidential historian. As it turned out, I ended up studying Lincoln, FDR, Teddy Roosevelt, and the great Eleanor Roosevelt, a lifetime of studying dead presidents, which may seem a rather odd career, but I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. My only fear has always been in the afterlife, there's going to be a panel of all these guys that I studied, and each one's going to ask me everything I missed about them. And the first person to scream out will be Lyndon Johnson. How come that damn book on the Roosevelts was twice as long as the book he wrote about me? But I realize now that I've looking back over this 50 or 60-year career that I've involved in, that I always chose challenging times, the most difficult times in our history, the Civil War, the turn of the 20th century, the Great Depression, or World War II. Perhaps it's because, as Abigail Adams said, it is not in the still of life that great characters are formed, it is in the great necessities of life that call out our great virtues. And it is that experience of living in those challenging times that gives me perspective, solace, and hope about our current situation. For however rough our time is, we have lived through really, really rough times before and emerged with greater strength. Just imagine what Abraham Lincoln faced when he came into office. 7 states already seceded from the Union, a civil war that would kill more than 600,000 about to begin. He later said if he had known the pressure he would be under in those first 3 months, he would not have thought he could have lived through it. But he did live through it, for he understood that democracy itself was on trial. He said that if the southern states could secede simply because they had lost an election, it would prove that ordinary people could not govern themselves. Someday the West would secede from the East. Democracy would prove to not be possible. Or imagine what Teddy Roosevelt faced at the turn of the 20th century. The Industrial Revolution had shaken up the economy, much like globalization and the technological revolution have today. People in the rural areas were suspicious of people in the big cities. People in eastern factories were cut off from the western farmers. Teddy Roosevelt said then that democracy would be in peril if people in different classes, because this was a time when there was a big gap between the rich and the poor, if people in different classes and regions began to think of themselves as the other people as the other, rather than as common American citizens, if we lacked empathy for other people in the country, if fellow feeling was lost, an all too familiar feeling today. And then imagine what it was like for FDR coming in at the height of the Depression. 1 out of 4 people out of work, no safety nets, starving people wandering the streets, a banking system that had collapsed, homes and mortgages gone from farms and city homes. Somebody said to FDR as he was about to give his first inaugural, you know, if your program works, you're going to be one of the great presidents in history, but if it fails, you'll be one of the worst. He said, no, I will be the last American president. That's how serious democracy was at trial then. And then imagine 1940, I think perhaps the greatest threat to Western civilization ever, when Hitler conquered all of Western Europe, save Britain, when the United States desperately wanted to help, but was only 18th in military power. We were behind Holland, who, when they surrendered, we finally became 17th. And we had 500 fighter planes, a one-day supply in the war. We had more horses than tanks. It was an incredibly anxious time. And the important thing about history is that we know now what the people at the time did not know. We know the end of their stories. We know the Civil War came to an end with the Union restored and emancipation secured. We know the Depression came to an end with the mobilization for the war. We know that the Allies eventually won World War II. But our ancestors did not know how their stories would end, so they suffered with the same fears and anxieties that we are living with now. But what history tells us is that our fear should be matched by hope. For it is never just the leaders we depend upon. It is us. It is the citizens who take the lead. It is up to us to write our next chapter. When Lincoln was called a liberator, he said, don't call me that. It was the anti-slavery movement and the Union soldiers that did it all. It was the settlement houses in the cities and the social gospel, the social justice of religion that made Teddy Roosevelt's Square Deal possible. And of course, it was the bravery and courage of the civil rights movement that led to the great progress in the 1960s. And then the women's movement and the gay rights movement, it's always up to us. So long as we can value our history and learn from our struggles as well as our triumphs, a fight we are having right now, we can find lessons and perspective and hope in the knowledge that our inner strengths as a people have brought us through tough times before, and they can do that again. I thank you so much for including me in this truly wonderful gathering. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Straw. We had to follow Doris Kearns Goodwin. That was a tour de force. And on behalf of all of our fellow trustees, we want to thank all of you for coming tonight to support this really worthy cause. And we promise you we'll be brief, since dinner is next. I want to share a few words with you as to why I was attracted to Gilder Lehrman as a trustee. Similar to many others, including our honoree, I was lucky to grow up in a family that prioritized reading. At an early age, I became a voracious reader of biographies of many of our founding fathers: George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Lewis and Clark and their Indian guide Sacagawea, Abraham Lincoln, and Harriet Tubman and her founding of the Underground Railroad. As I studied history in high school and college, I found that it sharpened my critical thinking and it improved my analytical skills. By exploring the lives, the struggles, and the achievements of people from different times and places, history helped teach me empathy, which my wife would tell you I need a lot of help in, and also an appreciation for diverse cultures and perspectives. Reading history today, which I still do a lot of, still transports me to fascinating times and places, just as it did when I was a young boy. I think one of Gilder Lehrman's great attractions to me are the book prizes. As many of you know, each year prominent historians review the best books written that year on 4 subject areas. The George Washington Prize for the best book written that year on the founding era. Lou Lehrman's favorite, the Gilder Lehrman Lincoln Prize for the best book written about Abraham Lincoln or the American Civil War, soldier or era. And if he wasn't our co-founder, he probably would have won that a couple of times. The Frederick Douglass Book Prize for the outstanding nonfiction book that year that focuses on slavery, resistance, or abolition. And the Gilder Lehrman, our 2 gentlemen from West Point will appreciate this. The Gilder Lehrman Military History Prize, which recognizes the best book written on U.S. military history that year. Historians who are expert in each of these fields recommend 5 to 7 finalists from a field of as many as 50 to 100 books that are written each year in each of those subject areas. And a jury of Gilder Lehrman trustees and President's Council members read and select the best book in each category. The winning author is given a significant cash prize and is celebrated at a book interview and subsequent dinner hosted by Gilder Lehrman. And if you love history, you should come to one of these dinners. For the history lovers in this audience, becoming involved in the book prizes is a wonderful way to stay current on groundbreaking books in the field. This year's Lincoln Prize-winning book was a favorite of mine. Edna Fields Black won the award for her book Combahee, Harriet Tubman, the Combahee River Raid, and Black Freedom during the Civil War. This groundbreaking book tells the story of Harriet Tubman's work as a spy and a scout for the Union Army in the 1963 Combahee River Raid, in which the U.S. 2nd South Carolina Volunteers, a newly formed regiment of formerly enslaved men, destroyed the region's largest rice plantations while enabling nearly 800 enslaved people to gain their freedom by boarding the Union ships that participated in the raid. The author, Edna Fields Black, is a direct descendant of a formerly enslaved man who fought with the 2nd South Carolina Volunteers in that raid. It's a fascinating read, and I highly recommend it. So in closing, too many of our students today know virtually nothing about our country's rich and unique history. I invite you to become involved with us at Gilder Lehrman to help open the eyes and the minds of each of these students as we reach out to them with our unique and interactive programming.
Thanks, Bob. So I immigrated to the United States of America in 1976, the bicentennial year. And I was fortunate enough to immediately feel the spirit and patriotism of this nation. On my first day of school, I felt celebrated as the children and the teachers gathered with curiosity to ask me about the country of my birth. In my sophomore year of high school, I took advanced placement U.S. history and was totally captivated. So much so that as a 17-year-old girl, I wrote about the Constitution in my common application. And I just went to my daughter's college graduation this past weekend, so I dusted off that, and I'm gonna bore you with one paragraph from it. History gives me a profound respect for America and motivates me to teach others as much as I can about our country. I found it amazing that a document written in 1787 is still the foundation of our government today. Instead of listing inalterable laws, it was structured to serve as a framework to be renovated by future generations. Although at times some interpretations betrayed the framers' intentions, the Constitution managed to maintain the country as a republic. Who would have imagined that a decade later, maybe a little less than a decade later, I would find myself in conversation with Richard Gilder, the co-founder of the Gilder Lehrman Institute, about the value of investing in that exact historical document, the Constitution, and so many other documents. You see, Gilder Lehrman grabs history out of textbooks, refusing to let it die dormant It places it into the students' hands through primary resources. And as Jim mentioned, some 87,000 rail documents, letters, speeches in the archives. That changes everything. It turns history into moments of interpretation, connection, and such wonder. Suddenly, it's not just memorizing facts, it's discovering unbelievable stories that help you understand yourself, others, and the world. You walk away with synapses firing, curiosity ignited, and that's a true gift, especially when you start at such a young age. Not only does GLI spark the next generation, it invigorates teachers, and it gives them the tools to think creatively about how to bring history to life, to challenge students to ask questions about every American story. GLI motivates, as you saw, academics and researchers, students and lovers of history to consider and create even more, discover more, and to keep the historical conversation growing. I still remember watching Richard Gilder in those early days, the spark in his eye as he and Lou Lehrman and then Jim Basker first came up with the ideas behind the Institute. The thoughtfulness that went into it was just incredible to watch. It would be hard to imagine in those early days, even when they were visioning so carefully, that GLI would grow into what it is today. 14 million students, as Jim referred to, 97,000 teachers, and 36,000 schools. There's so much in the numbers to take in this evening, but as you listen, I hope something stirs in you. Maybe an old question, a new idea, a pull towards the past, or maybe even an idea for the future. That's what GLI invites us to do, to trace the past not as observers, but as true participants. So now just imagine where the Institute might be decades from now. Thanks to the compounding power, and Richard Gilder sure taught me about compounding, and our collective energy and support, I can't even imagine what we'll be looking at 30 years from now in this Institute. So thank you for being here, and please enjoy your meal and the rest of the evening, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
That's terrific. Well done. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Let's settle down. All right. Let's settle down, everyone. Let's settle down. All right. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed the program right before dinner. Please. And truly, what a gift it is to hear from one of the most renowned historians in our great country, Doris Kearns Goodwin. Now, it's time to turn to the other two phenomenal honorees, the cast of Hamilton and the Rockefeller Foundation. To recognize them, I'd like to invite to the stage someone who is uniquely qualified to do so. She is one of the first students to participate in the Hamilton Education Program when it all started back in 2016. So everyone, please join me in welcoming a good friend of the Institute, Mikaylah Dunbar.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mikaylah Dunbar, and I'm incredibly honored to be here tonight. I'm a first-generation American raised by my Caribbean immigrant parents from Jamaica and Grenada, respectively. I attended Brooklyn Public Schools from kindergarten through high school, and then went on to Howard University for my undergraduate degree, where I graduated magna cum laude. In just a few days, I'll be graduating from Fordham University School of Law. But before law school, there was Fort Hamilton High School, where I first met Alexander Hamilton. Not literally, of course, but through AP US History with one of the best teachers I've ever had, Miss Glass. She was brilliant, passionate, and a huge fan of Hamilton. So when my classmates and I found out that we'd have the chance to see this new Broadway show about the guy our teacher was always raving about, and all we had to do was get creative with a class project, we jumped at the opportunity. EduHam turned out to be much more than just a school project. It gave me the chance to take part in history that I was learning and made the story of one of America's most important eras and one of its most important figures both fun and easy to connect with. Collaborating with my peers and creating an original performance piece pushed me out of my comfort zone and helped me find my voice and build the confidence that carried me throughout college and into law school. For many of us, seeing Hamilton was our very first Broadway experience. It's still the only show I've ever seen. For me and my classmates, going to Hamilton turned out to be much more than getting to see a Broadway show. It opened the door to a world we had never seen before and helped us see history in a whole new way. That's the magic of EduHam. For nearly a decade, this program has empowered millions of students like me across the country, changing how we view history and ourselves, giving us the confidence to speak up and inspiring us to think about how we can shape our country's future. So tonight, we are here to celebrate those who made that possible, the cast of Hamilton and the Rockefeller Foundation. To help illustrate just how impactful their contributions to American history education have been, please enjoy this video celebrating 10 years of EduHam.
Next up, from Springfield Central High School.
From Marist High School.
Rich East.
Roosevelt.
Modesto. Met West.
The Noble Academy.
Let's hit it.
Put your independence in the air.
Is this the part where I give him more bars?
The chosen one.
Freedom for who? Black girl magic. Do not settle.
And follow your future.
Period.
How can we affect young people with theater is always my first question. Lin-Manuel Miranda, Thomas Cale, and I all knew that education would be essential to our existence.
It's just a civic good, and I'm really proud to be part of it.
The one resounding question that I heard repeatedly, why hasn't anybody taught me history like this before?
When you were at EduHam, it was a whole live event, and you just feel the inspiration of 1,000 kids expressing themselves in a way that gives real life to the ideals of our founding fathers and to the ideals of this country.
The biggest impact has to be their ability to be creative.
It was eye-opening for them. They were excited. I got to turn something that I learned into a fun topic for me.
It just allows that creativity into the classroom.
Let's go!
The success of EduHam would have been impossible without the generosity of the Rockefeller Foundation. They supported us financially and with their encouragement.
When Hamilton went insane, where you couldn't get tickets.
And we realized if students get left behind, that will be a real shame.
It's not something that every student has the opportunity to see.
We then reached out to Rockefeller to be the main sponsor.
Then in the spring of 2016, and we had 2 Hamilton matinees where students in New York City came, engaged with the show. Those 2 matinees were enormous successes.
And that's what Gilder Lehrman is best at. I'm so grateful we found them as a partner.
One of my students was like, this is like my dream come true. I've always wanted to see Hamilton.
The cast loved the experience and raved about it.
Y'all killed it today.
I am so blown away. You saw that, right?
You have blown my mind.
And a month later, the Rockefeller Foundation announced a further $6 million grant.
And a partnership was born.
Wanting to be on the stage where it happens.
This is all part of the EduHam program.
For a lot of these students, it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
My dream was actually fulfilled today.
My admiration for the cast is without limit, because without their energy, we could not have touched all these student lives in so many important ways.
Though EduHam started as a live event, COVID made us change our strategy. we created the EduHam Online that not only allowed teachers to use it, but also allowed families to use it during COVID in their homes. So that instead of serving a couple 100,000 kids, we could serve millions of kids.
The fact that we're talking about it 10 years later means what we did worked.
We could not have done EduHam without the Rockefeller Foundation and then all of the other family and corporate foundations that helped us to raise well over $20 million to achieve this program.
Our educational team at Gilder Lehrman all signed off on the project as it evolved stage by stage.
It's like a perfect orchestra.
These 10 years have made a powerful difference. Many an inner city child has used being part of EduHam as part of their college essays.
I've had 10th graders come to me and be like, wait, we're still doing the Hamilton project next year, right? And I'm like, yes, we are doing it next year.
These students and their voice that is going to make the difference as to whether our democracy is stronger or weaker into our future. And because of EduHam, it's putting the thumb on the scale of being stronger.
The potential for the ripple effect that our show creates by any one person sitting in our theater on a daily basis is gigantic.
Thanks to the cast of Hamilton, all those talented, incredible individuals who threw their energy into this show.
I love that we have this opportunity every year for the students, because every year it's a new group of students that actually experience the show live.
I want a student, first and foremost, to be inspired by the possibility that they can make a better country. Because what EduHam does in success is create a new, vibrant citizenry.
We need these million kids that have been touched by the EduHam program to stand up and use their voice.
I think our greatest legacy will be the inspiration that these kids take from having had access to this curriculum and this program.
We are so lucky to have representatives of both the Rockefeller Foundation and the cast of Hamilton here with us tonight. So now I'd like to express our gratitude to them. I'd first like to thank the Rockefeller Foundation and their CEO, Rajiv Shah. Dr. Shah, on behalf of the over 1 million students impacted by the EduHam program, thank you for investing in our education and for believing that EduHam's curriculum can allow us to not only unlock America's founding era, but also our roles as engaged citizens. The Gilder Lehrman Institute is eternally grateful for the extraordinary support provided by the Rockefeller Foundation to launch and grow the Hamilton Education Program. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Raj Shah to the stage to accept the award for the Rockefeller Foundation.
Right here. We're going to picture right here.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Mikaylah. How awesome is she, and how amazing is this moment? I just want to thank our partners. We are so honored to be a part of this. The Rockefeller Foundation team, thank you for all you do on this effort and so many others around the world. A huge thank you to the whole Miranda family. Luis is not here, Lin-Manuel, but he is such a life force for keeping this thing going and growing, and we will always be responsive and supportive. And Jim, thank you for your extraordinary leadership of building what you've built here that inspires so many. You know, the Rockefeller Foundation was founded in 1913, before there was an income tax to benefit from, and one of the very first philanthropies in the United States. And John D. Rockefeller Sr.'s idea was incredibly simple. It was that our world was being transformed by science and innovation. And if we could harness that science in what he called scientific philanthropy, we could do things like transform public health, move 1 billion people off the brink of hunger through an agricultural revolution, and today try to bring energy and electrification to the 800 million people that still live in the dark around the world. So we're an institution packed with people that think about science and its application. And I will say this initiative, which got started at Rockefeller under my predecessor, Dr. Judith Rodin, a brilliant and extraordinarily committed American, has taught us all a deep lesson. And that is that making a difference is as much about art as it is about science. And the art that we are celebrating here with you tonight has now reached 1 million potential change makers, kids who are going to go out into this country and into this world at a time when they are desperately needed, with a deep understanding in their core of what it means to be an American and why folks fought in so many successive generations to maintain the democratic freedoms and rights that we are honoring and celebrating tonight. So congratulations to the Gilder Lehrman Institute. Thank you to our partners, and thank you for this extraordinary honor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shah. I'd now like to thank the cast of Hamilton and all of the former and current company members here tonight. I speak not just for myself, but for every student that has experienced the EduHam program when I say that you are the ones who bring American history to life. In every performance and every student Q&A, you show students not only how we can relate to our nation's founding, but also that we can achieve whatever we put our minds to. On behalf of the Gilder Lehrman Institute, thank you for sharing your immense talent and precious time with the over 1 million students who've gone through the EduHam program. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite a distinguished guest to recognize the cast. Please welcome Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Mikaylah, and congrats on Fordham, where my wife went to law school as well. This is really extraordinary. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. EduHam is the most important thing that has come out of Hamilton. Full stop. I have to highlight a few people that made it happen, because we realized early on in our run at the Public that everyone who left the show told everyone they knew about the show. And that's the kind of thing that a marketing campaign can't buy. It's a kind of thing that happens in the musical theater once every 20 years or so. And we realized very quickly, if students can't see this show, we will have failed them. And as a product of Hunter College High School, and I'm sitting with my fellow teachers here tonight, that was like impossible. So I want to thank the people who made this possible. Luis Miranda, my father, and Jeffrey Seller took the lead on making this a reality. Sasha Rolón Pereira and her team have meticulously designed and run this program for 10 years. And it was the Rockefeller Foundation who made it come together with lightning speed, at the speed of a new musical in previews on Broadway, which is really fast. And tonight we honor the cast, which brings it to life. I want to tell you a little story, which is that our son was born 2 weeks before rehearsal started for Hamilton at the Public. I don't remember much of 2015, 2016, because I was rewriting the show and, changing diapers and with a newborn child. Our son is 10 years old now. He's in middle school, and he went to see Hamilton with his class as part of EduHam this year. So that's how full circle all this is. But this incredible cast brings it to life. They know, as we knew back in 2015, that the student matinees and the EduHam audiences are the best audiences you can ever have, because teenagers don't lie. When something exciting happens, they will tell you, and they will scream, and they will cry when Philip dies. And it is what everything you wanted when you went into theater, those EduHam audiences provide us. So I want to introduce a couple members of the current cast on Broadway. Please welcome Marc DelaCruz and Cherry Torres.
Thank you so much, Len, for those kind words and for your introduction. So I was born and raised in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and around 12 years old, I moved to South Florida with my family. And it was there that an arts program in my middle school first opened the door to theater to me. Without it, I can promise you that I would not be here today. And that's why, to me, the Hamilton Education Program means so much. At a time where arts funding continues to shrink, EduHam has continued to give students something rare, the chance to connect with history in a way that is personal, creative, and alive. Through my involvement, whether doing read-alongs or Q&As or getting to see the students shine and perform, as we did earlier, I've been reminded time and time again just how powerful that connection can be. I remember during the pandemic, I had the chance to do one of their online programs. It was a read-along of one of the primary sources. It was a letter that Hamilton had sent to Eliza about Peggy's final days. I'm currently Peggy on Broadway now, and it was the very first time that I had seen that part of her history. I remember just being so excited that I'd gotten to uncover new layers about her, her world, her relationship with Hamilton, and just getting to see how that same discovery process sparked something in students was powerful and inspiring to me. What moves me the most is how EduHam just empowers students to see themselves in the narrative, to make sense of the past through their own lens, and to imagine what's possible in the future. It's really wonderful to watch them transform distant events into living stories through art, through film, through poetry, through dance and song. They don't just reflect history, they activate it. They engage with it. They show us that understanding the past is essential to shaping a better future.
My first EduHam experience came shortly after I joined the company, and I was recruited last minute to serve as the host. I was so nervous, but as soon as I heard the students cheering and chatter, I understood that this was not about me. It was about these young people and the work they had put in to learn this history, their reflection on their own places in that history, and all the music and artistry we were sharing that day. Every EduHam is a high-octane event. The students respond in ways and places our regular audiences don't, giving us fresh perspectives on the show. During the Q&As, they ask challenging questions that give us performers a chance to reflect on our place in history. When the pandemic hit and EduHam went online, the program became a beacon of light for students and Ham fam alike, all stuck at home and isolated. I got to lead a read-along and participate in some online history courses, and I've since had opportunities to record primary sources and visit local schools for in-person Q&As. Through their partnership, Gilder Lehrman and Hamilton give us performers something we rarely get, a chance to have a real and positive impact beyond our work on the stage. We're invited to step up as leaders and educators and to learn alongside and from these students in service of a mission that goes far beyond entertainment. And for that, I am eternally grateful.
So tonight, we want to thank Gilder Lehrman for giving us the honor to contribute to a program that has reached over 1 million students and continues to inspire a generation through history, creativity, and access. So thank you.
And we would like to invite all members of the Ham Fam who are here tonight, cast, crew, producers, writer, to come up on stage to take a photo.
Is this a prom picture?
There we go. Let's push together.
Hold on.
So I just want to say a word in closing. We have one spectacular moment left. But all of us and in this room and millions of our fellow Americans owe a debt of gratitude to Doris Kearns Goodwin, to the cast of Hamilton, to the creator Lin-Manuel Miranda, and to the Rockefeller Foundation for their contributions to our country's sense of itself and to what we all hope is a reinvigorated pursuit of our founding ideals. So we thank you always. But in a democracy, we all have a role to play, a contribution to make, whether it is in the classroom, in military service, or volunteer work in our local community, or in supporting the work of the Gilder Lehrman Institute, which, thanks to these pledge cards, which are at your table, you have a chance to do tonight. We'd love to have you all join with us. The fate of democracy depends on what we as citizens do together. We need to be aware, as we learned from the lyrics of Hamilton, that history has its eyes on you.